The Young and the Restless spoilers for Friday's update, the 10th of July 2026, point toward a tense and emotionally charged episode in Genoa City, where every corner of the Abbott crisis seems ready to explode at once. Jack Abbott remains at the center of the storm, still lying in a hospital bed, still unable to speak for himself, and still carrying the one truth that could destroy Patty Williams' dangerous plan. Diane Abbott may have been released from police custody and brought back to the hospital, but freedom does not mean peace. In fact, Diane's return to Jack's bedside only makes the situation feel more fragile, because everyone in the Abbott family understands that the truth is still locked inside Jack's unconscious mind. Billy Abbott, Tracy Abbott, Carl Abbott, and Diane all stand around him with different kinds of fear in their hearts. Diane fears that she may never get the chance to hear Jack say he believes in her. Carl fears losing his father before they can repair everything that has been broken. Tracy fears that the Abbott family is standing at the edge of another tragedy it may not survive. Billy fears that the people around Jack are hiding more than they admit, but the biggest danger may not be inside the room at all. It may be coming from the one person who knows that if Jack wakes up, everything changes. Patty Williams has already taken desperate action once, and now the spoilers suggest she may be ready to take an even darker step to keep Jack silent. Her obsession with Jack has always made her unpredictable, but now that Diane has been accused and the case is beginning to shift, Patty's fear may become more dangerous than her love. She may tell herself that she is protecting Jack, protecting their past, or protecting some fantasy version of what they once meant to each other, but the reality is far more chilling. If Jack opens his eyes and names her as the person responsible for his stabbing, Patty loses everything. The sympathy, the confusion, the false suspicion against Diane, and the chance to escape consequences all disappear the moment Jack speaks. That is why Wednesday's episode could become a turning point. Patty may not simply watch and wait anymore. She may decide that Jack must be silenced before he wakes up. Patty's possible move against Jack carries the kind of psychological horror that The Young and the Restless does so well, because it is not only about physical danger. It is about twisted emotion, buried history, and a woman convincing herself that desperation is love. Patty may sneak into Jack's hospital room under the cover of chaos, taking advantage of the Abbott family's exhaustion and the hospital's lack of perfect security. Perhaps she waits until Diane steps away, or until Carl and Billy argue in the hallway, or until the nurses are distracted by another emergency. In that brief window, Patty could stand beside Jack's bed and stare down at the man who could expose her. The sight of him helpless may break something inside her. She might whisper that she never wanted things to go this far, that Diane forced her hand, that Jack would understand if he knew how much she loved him. But beneath those soft words would be a terrifying truth. Patty is not there to comfort Jack. She is there to control the outcome. She may cover his mouth, tamper with his oxygen, threaten him while he is barely conscious, or prepare some other deadly method to make sure he never tells the police what really happened. The suspense comes from the question of whether Jack is truly unconscious or whether some part of him can hear her. If Jack's eyes move, if his fingers twitch, if he struggles even slightly, Patty may realize that he is closer to waking up than anyone knows. That realization could push her into panic. She may believe she has only seconds to act before Jack destroys her entire story, and if Jack manages to look at her, even without speaking, that look alone could become a devastating moment. Jack would know. Patty would know that he knows. The silence between them would become more terrifying than any confession. The key question is whether Patty can actually go through with killing Jack, or whether the emotions she claims to feel for him will stop her at the last second. Patty has done terrible things before, and her instability has caused deep pain for many people connected to Jack, but murder at a hospital bedside would be a line even she may struggle to cross. She may convince herself that Jack's survival would ruin both of them, yet when faced with the reality of ending his life, she may hesitate. That hesitation could be the only thing that saves him. Perhaps Jack begins to wake just as Patty moves closer. Perhaps a nurse enters the room unexpectedly. Perhaps Diane returns and sees Patty leaning over Jack, creating an explosive confrontation. Diane has already suffered the humiliation and terror of being accused of hurting the man she loves. If she catches Patty near Jack, Diane's fear could instantly turn into fury. She would not simply scream for help, she would fight. Cal, hearing the commotion, could rush in and discover the scene that proves what Diane has been saying all along. The Abbott family may finally see the real threat standing in front of them. But if Patty slips away before anyone catches her, the danger becomes even worse, because everyone will know someone tried to silence Jack, but they may still not be able to prove who it was. This would allow suspicion to keep spreading. Diane could remain under a cloud even after her release. Billy could become more reckless. Kyle could become more protective and suspicious of everyone. Tracy could find herself trying to keep the family from tearing itself apart while Jack's life hangs in the balance. The most painful part is that Jack himself may be the only person who can clear Diane, yet he is also the one person Patty is most determined to keep quiet. While Jack's life remains in danger, Michael Baldwin's storyline brings the legal pressure to a boiling point. Michael is not walking into this case blindly. He knows Diane is a complicated woman, and he knows her history makes her an easy target for suspicion. Diane has lied, schemed, and manipulated in the past, which means plenty of people in Genoa City are willing to believe the worst of her before hearing the facts. But Michael also understands the difference between a messy past and a present crime. He knows that the case against Diane may be emotionally convenient but legally weak. If Diane was framed, then every hour spent treating her as the main suspect gives the real attacker more time to cover their tracks. That is why his meeting with Christine Romalotti is so important. Christine, as the new district attorney, is not someone Michael can easily intimidate or manipulate. She is experienced, sharp, and deeply familiar with the complicated history of Genoa City. More importantly, because of her connection to Paul Williams, she knows exactly how destructive Patty Williams can be. Christine may not like Diane, and she may not be eager to defend Diane's character, but she is also too intelligent to ignore the warning signs. If Patty is involved, then the case is not as simple as it first appeared. Michael's strategy will likely be built around forcing Christine to look beyond Diane's reputation. He may point to Patty's motive, Patty's history with Jack, inconsistencies in the timeline, the lack of direct proof against Diane, and the danger of allowing the wrong woman to take the fall while Jack's true attacker remains free. Michael will not need to prove Diane is a saint. He only needs to prove there is reasonable doubt. And in Genoa City, reasonable doubt often begins with one named Patty. Christine's position is difficult because she must balance justice, public pressure, professional ethics, and personal knowledge. As district attorney, she cannot simply rely on instinct or old memories. She must follow evidence. Yet as someone who knows Patty's history, she cannot pretend that Patty is harmless. The conflict becomes even more interesting if Christine begins to realize that the case against Diane may have been built too quickly. Perhaps the police were under pressure to make an arrest. Perhaps Diane's presence near Jack made her look guilty before anyone examined the larger picture. Perhaps Patty's behavior has already raised quiet concerns, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Michael may push Christine to ask the question everyone else is avoiding. What if Diane did not stab Jack? What if the entire case has been moving in the wrong direction from the beginning? Christine may respond cautiously, refusing to drop anything without proof, but she may also agree to review the evidence, reopen certain questions, or delay moving aggressively against Diane. That alone could be a victory for Michael. Still, Christine may face a potential conflict of interest because of her connection to Paul and the Williams family. Patty's name is not just another name in a file. It carries personal history, emotional weight, and painful memories. If Christine begins to suspect Patty, she may have to decide whether she can handle the case fairly or whether her involvement could create complications. Michael, of course, will use every legal and emotional angle available. He knows that Diane's future may depend on whether Christine is brave enough to follow the truth even when it leads somewhere uncomfortable. Diane's fate hangs over Michael and Christine's conversation like a storm cloud. For Diane, being released from the police station is not the same as being cleared. She may be physically free, but she is still trapped inside suspicion. Every look in the hospital hallway reminds her that people doubt her. Every whisper makes her feel judged. She knows that some people believe she is capable of hurting Jack because they never truly accepted her return to the Abbott family. That makes Michael's legal work even more urgent. Diane does not only need protection from the court, she needs protection from the narrative forming around her. If Jack dies or remains unconscious, Diane could become the easiest person to blame. Patty may be counting on that. In Patty's mind, Diane's history is the perfect weapon. Why confess when Genoa City is already prepared to believe Diane is guilty? This is what makes the storyline so cruel. Diane's past mistakes become a cage, even if she is innocent this time. Michael may understand that better than anyone, which is why he must frame the case on evidence rather than morality. Diane does not have to be loved by Genoa City to deserve justice. She does not have to be forgiven by everyone to be innocent of attacking Jack. Michael's job is to make Christine and the authorities see that distinction before Patty's next move makes the truth even harder to reach. At the same time, Billy Abbott and Jill Abbott's latest confrontation adds another emotional layer to the Abbott crisis. On the surface, their argument may seem separate from Jack's medical emergency and Diane's legal trouble, but it is deeply connected to the larger theme of family loyalty under pressure. Billy and Jill have spent years trying and failing to rebuild trust. Their relationship has always been complicated by love, resentment, disappointment, and business betrayal. Billy wants to believe his mother loves him, but he also cannot forget the decisions that made him question whether Jill values power and survival more than family. The sale of Chancellor Industries to Victor Newman remains a wound that never fully healed. For Billy, that was not just a business move. It felt like a betrayal of legacy, identity, and trust. Chancellor was not simply a company. It represented history, ambition, and the fragile sense of belonging Billy has always struggled to hold onto. When Jill made that move, Billy saw it as proof that she would make decisions over his head and expect him to accept them later. Now, in the middle of Jack's crisis, those old wounds return with sharper edges. Billy may look at Jill and wonder whether she is truly there for him, or whether she is once again managing outcomes, protecting herself, and making secret plans that will leave him blindsided. Jill, for her part, may be exhausted by Billy's suspicion. She has made mistakes, but she may genuinely believe she has acted out of love, practicality, or a desire to protect him from himself. Billy has never been easy to guide. His impulsiveness, anger, and hunger for independence have often pushed him into dangerous choices. Jill may argue that she has had to make hard decisions because Billy refuses to see the bigger picture, but that defense will not satisfy him, especially not now. With Jack fighting for his life and Diane facing suspicion, Billy is not in a forgiving mood. He may accuse Jill of always having an agenda, of pretending to support him while quietly steering events in her favor. Jill may fire back that Billy uses betrayal as an excuse to avoid responsibility, that he would rather blame her than admit his own mistakes. Their argument could become brutally personal, not because they do not love each other, but because they love each other through layers of disappointment. Billy may ask the question that cuts deepest: can Jill prove that she is on his side when it truly matters? Jill may answer with emotion, anger, or even vulnerability, but Billy may not be ready to believe her. The tragedy is that Jill could be sincere and still fail to convince him, because trust once broken does not return simply because a family crisis demands it. The Billy and Jill conflict also reflects the larger breakdown happening around the Abbotts. Everyone is being forced to choose where their loyalty lies. Diane wants the family to believe she loves Jack and did not hurt him. Paul must decide whether to stand fully beside his mother despite the doubts of others. Tracy must try to hold the Abbotts together while fear and suspicion threaten to divide them. Billy must decide whether he can focus on Jack's survival or whether his own unresolved anger will pull him into another family war. Jill must decide whether to fight Billy, comfort him, or finally admit that some of her choices damaged him more deeply than she wanted to acknowledge. Michael must decide how aggressively to challenge the case against Diane. Christine must decide whether the evidence points away from the convenient suspect and toward a far more dangerous truth. And Patty, moving in the shadows, must decide how far she is willing to go to keep Jack from speaking. These storylines may seem separate, but they are all connected by one central question: what happens when truth threatens the fragile stories people have built to survive? Patty's story is that she loves Jack and had no choice. Diane's story is that she has changed and deserves to be believed. Billy's story is that Jill cannot be trusted. Jill's story is that she has always loved her son, even when he hated her decisions. Michael's story is that justice requires looking past reputation. Christine's story is that the law must follow facts, not emotions. Wednesday's episode may test every one of those stories. As the crisis builds, the hospital could become the emotional battlefield of the episode. Jack's room is not just a medical space, it is the place where every secret wants to surface. If Patty enters that room, the danger becomes immediate. If Diane sees something suspicious, her terror becomes evidence. If Carl catches even a glimpse of Patty, his rage could push him to the edge. If Billy arrives after an argument with Jill, he may be emotionally unstable enough to confront the wrong person or make the wrong accusation. And if Jack shows any sign of waking up, the entire episode could shift from dread to urgency. The moment Jack's fingers move, or his eyelids flutter, or the monitor changes rhythm, Patty's window begins to close. Michael's case becomes stronger. Diane's hope returns. Christine's doubts become more serious, but Patty's desperation also becomes more extreme. That is the dangerous balance the young and the restless appears ready to explore. Jack's recovery could save Diane, but it could also make Jack a target all over again. The closer he gets to waking, the closer Patty gets to being exposed. The most compelling possibility is that Wednesday's episode ends without a complete answer, leaving viewers trapped between fear and hope. Patty may get close enough to Jack to terrify everyone, but not close enough to finish what she started. Michael may plant doubt in Christine's mind, but not yet secure Diane's freedom from suspicion. Billy and Jill may reach an emotional breaking point, but not yet find healing. Jack may show a sign of life, but not enough to reveal the truth. That kind of cliffhanger would keep the audience asking the most important questions. Will Jack wake up in time to clear Diane? Will Patty silence him before he can speak? Will Christine have the courage to reconsider the case before the wrong woman is destroyed? Will Michael uncover the evidence that proves Diane was framed? Will Kyle's loyalty to Diane strengthen, or will fear make him doubt her again? Will Billy and Jill finally confront the real pain between them, or will their argument become another wound that never heals? And above all, how far will Patty Williams go when she realizes that Jack Abbott's voice could end her freedom forever? By the end of the episode, Genoa City may feel more unstable than ever. Jack's hospital bed becomes the center of a deadly secret. Diane's future depends on a truth she cannot prove by herself. Michael steps into a legal battle where reputation, history, and evidence collide. Christine faces a decision that could define her first major move as district attorney. Billy and Jill reopen old wounds at the worst possible time, and Patty, driven by panic and obsession, may be ready to turn love into something fatal. If Jack survives, he could become the key to everything. If he dies, Diane may be buried under suspicion, the Abbotts may be shattered beyond repair, and Patty may believe she has won. But in Genoa City, secrets rarely stay buried forever. A whisper, a fingerprint, a security camera, a half-heard confession, or one flicker of awareness from Jack could be enough to bring the entire lie crashing down. Wednesday's episode promises not just drama, but a collision of fear, loyalty, guilt, and revenge, and once Patty makes her next move, no one in the Abbott family may ever feel safe again.